Hello everyone, Coach Carol here. I'm going to show you another little step that will help you organize your genealogy research. I'll share with you what I've learned today. I'm first of all going to share my blog site with you so that you can see why I am doing my research. This is where I store my stories of the ancestors, and this recent one is a letter that I've written to my great-grandfather, Samuel Allery. So I did a lot of research for this and came up with a really interesting story for him and his family built on the data that I had. And today I was able to add more to it using the wonderful resource of the old newspapers. As you know, I use Find My Past for my research. And in here, what I've done is chosen to search into the newspapers, and in this case, the British newspapers. And I'm choosing the dates of 1920 to 1929, which is the era in which my great uncle did his first research into the Angel Estates. So I knew the dates that I wanted. I wasn't sure which paper, and there were many papers and articles that popped up when I put that into the search field for this newspaper. But the one that caught my mind or caught my eye was towards the bottom of that first list. And it was called The Romance of the West Country. And I had not seen that one before. I must have skipped it. So I immediately opened that one up and, of course, did a web clip across to my Evernote. So here I have stored in place a clip of that particular article, which is called The Romance of the West Country, a £60 million claim by a Devon man, missing marriage certificate. Now, this story I have used many, many times in my stories, but this added just another little element to it, especially when I found that in this article, the reporter had interviewed my great uncle and he had made mention of his grandfather, who I had been writing the story about. And his grandfather, my great-great, is Samuel. So I was able to put in place into my blog extra details. I'll just skim through a little bit about what I had found for this person. And at the end of this, I'll tell you where you can find this particular blog post. I was interested to find out more about Samuel, my great-great. And in the article that I read in the old newspaper, William Adrian mentioned the place where his grandfather used to work as a chandler. And so I did a little bit of further digging and using the wonders of Google came up with a picture of what I believe to be the site of where my great-great-grandfather had his business of being a chandler. And this is in the Old Market in Dartmouth. So the way I did that was to go to Google and put in the search field the Old Market at Dartmouth in around the 1830s and came up with this wonderful picture. Then I wanted to see what it looks like today. And from the article that I read in the old newspaper, he had described the location as being opposite the post office. So I went to Google and using the fantastic street view, I was able to find this old market. So if I swing it around, there is the old post office. It's still in its same location in Victoria Road, obscured by the post office van out the front. So when in swinging around to find out what was opposite, I realized that is probably the place, and it's still being used as a hardware store, similar to what my great-great-grandfather was doing for his business back then. So I was able to then come back to my blog post and put all of that in place, along with a bit of a map to show how I had navigated to those old places. And I had written the whole thing as a letter. I'll just scroll back to the top now. And you can find this blog post at my blog site called coachcarolwritingwordpress.com, and look for the post called Dear Grandpa Sam. I'll add that to the comments after I've finished with this live cast today. But I hope you've enjoyed this little brief exposition down to the old newspapers. And to find them, you go to, well, I go to Find My Past, and I go directly to the British newspapers and choose the era and, where possible, the county that I'm looking for. And all of that helps you tell the database what you want to find. I hope you can do the same with some of your sleuthing for your ancestors who have possibly appeared in the old British newspapers.